We're all from different backgrounds, regardless of whether we might wear the same clothes. Some people are actually hiding poverty. They just want to fit in. And you might think that we're wearing the same clothes right now. It might be from a certain retail store, but actually our financial backgrounds back at home are quite different. The NSFAS allowance is not enough to really cover the needs of a student.
No, never. I don't think so.
It's not. So it was inactive until now, where we relaunched the Ikamva Lethu fund. And what we're trying to do with it is mainly three things with it. It's to add on to the existing food bank that we have by adding more meat into these food banks, into these food packages rather. You are not going to be disciplined if you continuously expose yourself to the places where your discipline lacks. Right? So if...
Wait, say that again.
No, honestly,
that hit home. That hit home. Welcome back to yet another episode of Beyond the Syllabus. And as always, I am not alone. I am with Uthando, my wonderful presenter, as well as, so we are joined by an SRC member, the president of ISASCO, MacNtosh. How are you doing?
I'm well, actually. Just a correction there. I'm not the president of SASCO. I'm the president of the SRC.
Of the SRC, okay.
Yeah, the president of the SRC. But yeah. Thank you for having me, guys. I truly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I think I also complimented the amount of effort that you guys put in, and the equipment and all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much. So before we start, we've got this thing that we do, right? Just a quick icebreaker, just to settle you in, and yeah, then we can move from there. So Tano, did we agree on animal or fruit?
I beg.
Okay, so what we're going to be doing is you're going to be describing the fruit that you feel like, and then you explain why you think you feel like that fruit. So I think Tando can start things up just to give us a little example.
Yeah.
Okay, so today I'm feeling like a grapefruit, right? The reason is, okay, the weather outside, it's not very warm. So it's giving winter, citrusy vibe. And the reason I'm saying grapefruit is the sourness, the nasty taste of grapefruit.
I hear you.
That's only because I'm writing later today. Okay, I would have written by the time this episode comes out, but I'm writing later today. And I don't feel okay, but I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Oh, man. Now you go next.
Yo. I thought we'd be talking about animals, and if it was animals, I would have been able to easily answer that. But I think a fruit. I'd probably go for an orange. Yeah, an orange.
Okay.
And I think that's because I get told quite a lot of times, and I'm sure that maybe that's the perception that you had when you saw me come in, that I'm very serious and very not welcoming in my.
But I saw calm then.
Very
calm. Not really, but at most times, some people often perceive me as a person that's serious and don't have a welcoming face and all of that. But once you get to peel me, you get to see that I'm quite soft, or there is some juice to this person.
Okay,
so yeah,
sweet and all
I
of
think
that.
an orange. Yeah.
Mine is a very weird one.
Okay, as always. You never have a normal thing.
Like, the thing is, today I'm feeling sour and sweet at the same time.
Okay.
So it's like a lemon, and then just put a little sugar on it. Just cut a slice of lemon, put sugar on it.
You could have said any other thing, Lilo.
No.
Any other thing.
I feel like
but
that.
A lemon is usually associated with bitterness.
Okay,
So
wait.
is that why you chose
Are you
a yellow
bitter?
hoodie?
No!
Just
not
asking,
even.
just
Not even.
asking.
Yes. So the reason why I chose the hoodie firstly is because
Sure.
we're always matching, and we never know that we're matching, right?
No.
Last week we had jeans, white tees, and then I almost wore my black hoodie. And when I saw her today, I was like, thankfully I didn't wear it because we're gonna match once again. So yeah, but it wasn't planned. But either way, with the lemon and sugar,
It's usually
doesn't have to
associated
do
with
with
bitterness.
bitterness,
Are you
man.
bitter, ma'am?
no.
Okay.
I'm not. It's just that I'm feeling a bit sour. So you know how your oranges, your grapefruits are sour? Not that sour, like lemon sour that just gives you that kind of a feeling. It's that, and that
Okay.
is associated with how cold it is and how cold my hands are.
Okay.
But the sweetness of it all is that I'm not having a bad day.
Okay.
I'm not having a bad
That
day.
works.
So see, it always makes sense, man. It always just
But it
makes
could
sense.
be like pineapple. I feel like pineapple gives me that vibe.
No, but it's
It
not.
has that bitter taste to it, but it's not really bitter because it's sweet fruit in general.
Nah, but if you
And
look at the outer structure of a
It
pineapple,
looks rough.
Yeah, and I don't
Okay.
think I look rough.
Okay.
Mm,
Okay.
But I think I do side with the pineapple one. I think that's a better explanation of how you're feeling.
Yes. I just thought of a pineapple
Yeah,
when you
pineapple
explained how
does
you're
give that very
feeling.
sweet,
Sweet
sort of
with
a
sour,
sour,
you know?
Yeah, it does.
I know,
it
but like
does.
I just felt like lemon and sugar. Just
Because you had to be differently, Lo.
yes, I just had
But
to.
I'll just let you be, hey? I'll let you be.
So today, right? With everything that we've spoken about last week, so we've spoken about the trend that we've been seeing on campus with how in the beginning of the year it's always packed, and that now closer to the
gets emptier.
exams it's getting emptier and emptier. And there was a lot of other things that we've spoken about, but now one of the things that we'd actually like to dive into today is the matter of finances in terms of NSFA students, or rather, let me not even say NSFA students, but students who get bursaries, right? So you get this amount of money every month. You need to buy groceries. If you don't stay on campus and you don't have a proper shuttle or whatever, you need to also budget for transport. And for those who are also working, because we know that we do have working students, you also need to think of transport. You need to wear clothes, right? So you need to buy clothes as well. And then there's the fun times, weekends. You need money for your social life as well, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're a student who lives at res and you get that 1.7,
Something.
yeah,
1.7 something.
and you get that 1.7, how do you guys as students how are you guys able to basically spend that money accordingly and maybe still have some to save? Or do students even save actually?
I do.
Yeah, most def. I think it differs from person to person, from preference to preference too. If you look at NSFAS over the past, I think 4 years, there's always been an increase of living allowances, cognizant of the economy that we're in, cognizant of inflation and all of those economic terms. So there's been the consideration of the amount that a student receives and making sure that there's more at least disposable income for someone to spend their money on. So for the student, it really depends from preference to preference. But I do think definitely a significant amount of that allowance does go towards groceries. I hope that it does go towards groceries. We can always challenge that just by seeing a certain place where it's really full at the end of the month.
2 places.
But yeah, sure, so we can always challenge that view. But I think it is common practice for someone to allocate a significant amount of that allowance towards groceries. I mean, I know for one, I definitely do allocate most of that allowance towards groceries, and I think the remaining, it's either I save or invest, either or. There's a difference between the two. So save or invest, it depends on the percentage that you decide on. It can be 10% or 20%. Then I think the rest is more flexible. It's more flexible. You might need to buy, toiletries. Toiletries are not something that you buy every month. Well, some do buy every month if you are that kind of person, but it's not really a fixed kind of expenditure. So hence I say that the remaining amount does become quite flexible in terms of how do you choose to spend. It could be toiletries, it could be, look, you just want to go hang out with friends and go out and try and socialize, or you might even decide to spend it on textbooks. It always ranges. You might never know what are your emergencies.
Students.
Honestly. But I always have an opinion about this. I do have an opinion about this. The NSFAS allowance is not enough to really cover the needs of a student.
No, never. I don't think so.
It's not. So I assume, and I say this based off how I also do it, there are other alternative forms of income that someone might receive to, try and add on to the expenditures that they need through the incomes that they receive, of course. So it's never really enough. I don't think it is enough, and it'll never be. Unfortunately, it'll never be. I mean, I'm sure when you receive that allowance, now I'm not sure if you're an NSFAS student or not, but I'm sure someone would be thinking of a wig, something to. Trust me, they buy things if they NSFAS allowances. Trust me, I can guarantee you that quite a number of females also use the NSFAS allowances to pay for their nails.
Okay.
That's crazy.
But nails are not that expensive though.
No, they are.
They're not.
They're not.
They're not.
They are
a maximum
not.
of 300 rand
For
Imagine.
both your toes and hands.
both hands and toes.
That's
Literally.
almost 1/4. That's almost 1/4 of your allowance spent on nails.
True.
It's almost 1/4 of your allowance spent
But it's
on nails.
maintenance.
But it's maintenance.
Better.
I mean, just because you're spending 5 rand on your haircuts, don't. Please, I
Literally.
beg.
Like
I bet.
literally.
Like I said, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that
Sounds very
these
judgy,
are the
sir.
considerations. No, I'm not judging. I'm saying that almost 1/4 of your allowance has been spent on nails. And I'm not saying nails are not something that females have been accustomed to. Of course, they have been, but
Okay.
I would, I would think otherwise with the nails. I would think otherwise.
Oh my
300. I mean, I'm sure there was this one time, and trust me, she's fantastic at what she does. So she does nails. She's a nail tech, and trust me, she's fantastic. I asked her this one time, so how much do you charge for nails? And she said to me, 250. I'm like, 250.
Yeah.
For
Acrylic.
nails. Yeah, there's even these distinctions. There's acrylic and there's
Gel.
Yes, gel.
There's poly, what?
Yeah, but
Poly, the polygel.
yeah. But at that time, I think what she told me was, it was acrylic and gel, and she told me that gel is between the two, something is more difficult than
So
the other.
acrylic is more difficult
Yeah.
than your gel because
Because
you
it's
just
more like
apply the
cement.
nail polish and then you let it dry, and then if they want some sort of design, then it's also an extra cost as well as acrylic. So acrylic is like a powder, so it's not nail polish, it's a powder, and then they put it on acetone just to make it wet, and then they put it on you, and then it sticks, and it's that ceramic thing that you see. So
Makes sense. Now she told me that some's difficult than the other, so that's why she charges a higher price than that. And in my mind, I asked myself, which student would want to really purchase nails for 350? And the amount of customers she gets, it even got to a point because of how close I am with her. They would text me to ask her.
Oh my god!
So that she could make space for them or book them in some way somehow, because the amount of customers that she gets is just absurd. So to me, that made me understand, and it actually goes back to the conversation that we're having. It's that it always differs, preference to preference, need to need. What you deem as important might not be really important to me.
Sorry to disturb. So what you're trying to say is that it can be enough to other people depending on preference, or it's just generally not enough?
Generally, it's not enough. Now, I study economics. I really love economics. So, Economics 101 tells us that there's always unlimited wants for limited resources, right? So we'll always have unlimited wants and needs too, but we always have limited resources. Even the richest of the richest have limited resources. It's an economic scarcity. It's a phenomenon, and it's true. And that's why we always want more than what we have. You might think that currently you need 1,000 rand, but by the time you get to that 1,000 rand, you'll realize that there's other needs and wants that are actually
way more than 1,000.
Exactly. So that's why I say that it will always differ. It'll never be enough.
Okay.
So it's about
sense.
how you use the money that you have. It'll always boil down to choices.
Okay.
Choices.
Makes so
What
much
are your
sense.
choices? What are your priorities? What are your needs? If your need is to go get that weave, that installation, then okay. But if my need is a textbook, then that's that. But at the end of the day, it's about the choices that we make with the limited resources that we have.
But also going back to your question, Tando, right? Of is it ever enough, right? I think there are some students who can actually
Who can stretch it out.
Who can stretch it out, yes. And then you see, Bana, during the month, they do still have money. And I'm like, how do you do this? Because I know for a fact that there are a lot of us as students who don't budget firstly. And then we overspend on things that we shouldn't. For example, imal gaines fasiyangena at, let's say, 6 or 8, right? Everyone is thinking the barn. Spa is closed. You're not thinking of going to get your groceries at 8 because Spa is closed. So you're thinking the barn.
Mr. D.
Uber Eats. You're like, no, you know what? I'm just gonna spoil myself today because I just got this money. So I'm going to spoil myself. Or I'm just gonna go to the barn, get a Gatsby, and then you get to the barn, you get the Gatsby, you see your friends are drinking, and you're like, you know what? Life is here tonight, you know? And then you end up drinking too much. And then come
Spending
Monday,
almost half of your allowance.
it's actually almost half. Let's say you spend more
There are
than
people who
half.
spend all of it.
Some people do actually, and
Really?
then they get to, you see, it goes back to what you were saying last week about the student that would buy noodles for the entire month, and
Yeah.
they eat noodles every day.
Manudlo sikros.
Guys,
That
how
happens.
do you do that?
Yeah, and if I just may there, I think it will always go down to budgeting. And
That's what I was asking. Do students budget?
they do,
Yeah.
But
but there's really a nuance to it. So let me put it like this: students choose to budget when they receive money. So at the time at which they receive money, now they choose to budget. I do it a bit differently. I budget for expected income, not for when income has hit my account. So if I am expecting 4,000 Rand this month on X, Y, and Z services that I've rendered plus my allowances, I already budget now, so that by the time that I receive my allowance, I already know where am I going to spend this money, which I think a lot of us actually get quite wrong. It's not to say it's not a good practice. That's if you're really disciplined enough to start budgeting once you have the money on your account. So, which is quite complex for me at least. But how I choose to do it is, if I expect a certain income, even if it's not the exact income, but if it's around that
the
amount,
amount that you
I
budgeted
already
for.
have an allocation of where I will be spending that amount. So if I may receive an income that is contra or that's not really reflective of what I had expected, then I just make, adjustments here and there, but I've kept to what I need to spend on. And anything else, I don't have the money to do it.
Can I share a different opinion?
Yeah, sure.
I feel like, and I've seen this with a lot of my friends, right? They'll budget before they get the NSFAS money. So as soon as it's finished, that's when they'll start budgeting. But you know what? This month I was meant to do A, B, and C, but because I misused my money, this following month I'm going to actually do this with my money. And then the money comes in, and then budget
out the window.
We forget about it. So I think it goes back to, students, maybe they do budget, but now
It's
it
all
comes
about
with
the
discipline.
Yeah. No.
So how
honestly,
disciplined are you?
I definitely do agree about how disciplined are you. And I have a really interesting theory about discipline. I don't believe in discipline as a construct. Let me say this differently. You are not going to be disciplined if you continuously expose yourself to the places where your discipline lacks. Right? So if...
Wait, say that again.
No, honestly,
that hit home. That hit home.
You are not going to be disciplined if you expose yourself to the places where your discipline actually lacks.
Snap.
And trust me, I've had to learn that the
Hope
very
you guys
hard
learned
way.
something.
Yeah, trust me, I've learned it the hard way. Let me say it in a more simpler way. I had a really I don't know if this is the best place to say it, but I'll say it regardless. So I had a very interesting dynamic with girls, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a very interesting dynamic with girls. I just loved flirting with girls. I loved it. I really loved flirting with girls. Trust me.
Isn't that what guys do?
We can always argue it,
Yeah.
but look,
It's arguable.
I had a problem with that. I had a problem, and I realized that this is becoming a problem because they're distracting me, you know, from some of the things that I really want to do and some of the things that are really important for me.
Yeah.
And so I took a step back and analyzed, why am I so flirtatious with girls, and where are these places where I am so very exposed to
I
that?
think
So
it is
I found out it's clubs, it's group works. That's where I start. It's
What?
it's
School group work?
yeah, it's in
my gosh.
it's in social hangouts, you know, those
Yeah.
let's
Yeah,
go
yeah,
hang
yeah.
out. There'll be Mbali and Balisa there. So I learned that those are the places where I lack my discipline.
Yeah.
So what should I do? I should make the conscious decision to say that I remove myself from such spaces, or either I don't expose myself too much in these places. And therefore, when I start doing that, I realize that I engaged less or flirt with women less than how I would have if I continuously exposed myself in those
Oh,
spaces.
so that trick is to cancel out the
Cancel it
places
out, yes.
that make you.
Just say no,
For
yeah.
example, if when amawubona allowance account you think of the ban or you think of alcohol, are you canceling out alcohol?
You see exactly. And now remember, when you buy alcohol, and this is to say nothing about alcohol. I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
Yeah.
when you buy alcohol and you drink alcohol more and more and more, you become intoxicated, and your decisions are not as accurate
Yeah,
as they would have if you were sober. So now you begin making very reckless decisions, like beginning to come flirting with that girl, starting to fight with that guy, starting to say things that you would otherwise not say.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to intentionally then remove yourself out of those spaces because
Okay.
you're not disciplined, you know. And just a last one. So there's no such thing as discipline as a construct.
Yeah.
You know, it's very vague. It is very vague. I don't believe in it. I just believe in there's spaces where you ought
Where
to
you can-
exercise precaution so that you can avoid effects. I'm sure you know the old saying, prevention is better than cure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think it boils down to those kind of spaces. So even in budgeting, it's about recognizing what are your priorities and where will you lack inevitably. You know that you lack when she asks you, please send me money for nails and all of that. Block her. Just block her.
Just block her.
Just block her.
We
You know,
just
yeah.
girls. We just girls.
Yeah. And I'm not insinuating anything. That's why I said in my opening lines, this is a terrible example, but I think it would relate, you know, it would relate.
Yeah.
It unfortunately makes so much sense.
It does.
It does.
It's like you're so right, but like I just wish you weren't. Like, because literally, like when you said, Bana, when you were talking about us or people in general removing themselves from what they know is a distraction, and thinking because of a lack of a better word, I actually thought of the thing that I need to remove myself from, and that's why why are you so right? She actually
I
drives
was
me
about
crazy
to ask
right
a question
now.
on that actually.
Yeah.
That what if something that you considered that you lack of a better word, discipline on, and is considered a good thing generally. For example, you spend most of your money for transport going to church. And uyabona ukuthi mfethu amasenta awahlangani. But it's something that you're spending on, but it's considered good. Spending your money in buying your favorite book. I stopped reading hard copies for that reason exactly. Because I spent exclusive books. Hate to see me coming. But, you know, what if you spend your money in something that is considered good?
I hear you.
What then?
With one example that you've just made, I've actually started guilt tripping my family members into buying me hard copy books for my birthday.
I stopped reading
So
them.
I have like a series of the James Patterson, Alex, the Detective Alex books. So I've got like a series of those because I literally guilt tripped everyone into buying me that because I'm like, I can't buy myself these books with the money that I have.
Yeah.
And another thing is that, funny enough, my brother last week, he's the first year, right? He was like, bro, last year I wasn't getting this first. I literally did not have any income. And he started getting this first, and then that was not enough. And then he got a job. And then he gets paid every week. And then it's like, bro, why is it that now that I'm working, my problems are even more? Like, I didn't, like a few months ago, I didn't see the need mandibene take, for example, right? I didn't see the need for a take enja. I didn't see the need for a new tea.
See, that's
and all of
considered
that.
good.
But then now, all of us, I almost said all of a Sunday. I always say that. But anyways, still, all of a Sunday, he now feels the need to buy this and that and this and that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just life. That's how life goes. Literally,
More money
that's just-
comes with more problems.
Bro.
But my question is still not answered.
You know, I think I have a quite.
Difficult.
It's a very difficult question,
It
and I do
is.
completely agree.
Because your
I do-
examples are bad on the
Yeah,
bad things,
yeah.
like the flirting, the alcohol. There's, I'm sorry, but things that are considered bad in the society.
Yeah.
You know, that you shouldn't be spending your money on. But what if you're spending on something that's considered good?
Then I think the next question you should ask yourself is it sustainable though? It's good. Yeah, sure. Is it sustainable? And if you come to the affirmative answer that it's not sustainable, then the next question you should ask yourself is, how do I try and create a balancing act? Because
Okay.
life is all about balancing acts. You know, it might be good, but it's hitting you somewhere.
Okay.
You know, it's like saying, and I'm going to use a very sensitive example. It's like black tax.
Yeah.
It's like you know that you know that your family is very reliant on your income or a certain percentage of your income, but it is hitting you. It is hitting you where it hurts. So I would say, and what I would do is try and reduce the amount that you spend there. Communicate it clearly, justify it. Why are you spending less on that amount? And then seek alternative measures. Let's use your book example.
Hence,
Yeah.
I'm
You
reading
buy
soft copies
exactly. You see, you buy a lot of books. Reduce that and read more soft copies. Or you could even go to the library and loan more books. Or you can even ask your friend. And this is something that I do because I read quite a lot. I'm an avid reader. I borrow a book to someone in exchange for another book that they might have. You know, so it's those kind of things of how you try and create a balancing act. So if I spend 600, that means I can now spend at least 250 on a book in 2 months.
Okay.
So it's all about how do I make it more sustainable. It's good, but how do I make it more sustainable? How do I be more innovative? Like, for example, in the SRC, we receive a certain amount budget annually. So every event of the SRC that we have is justified. It is one. And I remember in my team, we once had a meeting where we, strategically planned for the year about what are some of the events and the initiatives we're going to take this year. Everyone had good ideas. Everyone had the best idea. Let's do this. Let's have that. Let's do this. Let's have that. And I said to them, all of these are justified, but we have limited resources to execute on all of these things.
Yeah.
So how do we decide? Let's decide on the set of principles of our vision and our mission. What is it that we want to achieve as the SRC? If we say we want to reduce food insecurity on campus, then we should lean more on events that actually reflect that. You see? Okay. So that's how you try and create the balancing act. And maybe for the other events,
Sustainability over want?
Yeah, sort of. And maybe for the events that are not quite inclined to what we're doing, let's try and seek donations. Yeah. I'm not saying they cannot happen. I'm saying they can. Let's go seek donations, but let's not use our resources to do that. You see? So sustainability over your want.
With something that you just said, right? Black techs. I first heard this last year, that there are students who are funded by NSFAS who send money home.
That's the
Now,
thing.
in all of these
never
expenses
understand
that we have counted, that's the one that we forgot. Like, there are students who need to buy groceries, who need to have a social life, who need to get toiletries and
Send
a lot of
money
other
home.
things, but they still need to send money home because they come from backgrounds whereby tonight their parents don't know what they're going to eat. So basically, even though they're studying, they also need to come up with a plan. But okay, I need to send 20 rands home because my mom's gonna need bread and all of that. You get those situations as well. And you did say it was sensitive, but I feel like it's even more sensitive when it's a student who's here to study and now is put with the responsibility to also feed ikhaya lagowabo. Like, it's really sad in my eyes because I'm like, I'm complaining about this money and I'm not sending money home.
I'm not sending anything home.
I'm not sending anything home. I'm just chilling. I'm just getting my nails, getting my weave, getting my grocery, and I'm just sorted. And then I just complain.
That person that has to send almost half of their little money back home.
And then they still need to do everything that I just counted as my expense. Yeah, when I saw...
Yeah. It is very difficult. And this is why I love every time I say something, I put the disclaimer that it's a terrible example or it's very sensitive. So I am going to say again, it is very sensitive in its nature. And I'm not going to say that one should not do it because we're all from different backgrounds. We're all from different backgrounds, regardless of whether we might wear the same clothes. Some people are actually hiding poverty. They just want to fit in. And you might think that we're wearing the same clothes right now. It might be from a certain retail store, but actually our financial backgrounds back at home are quite different. And, but that's another conversation. I think when it comes to that, and what I love at a very practical level, the University of the Western Cape does, assist to try and reduce the burden. I know of quite a number of cases of students that had to send money back home and where we've assisted with, food packs or grocery packs each and every month. Now they're not enough, but they do make a difference from where you were, So now at least you won't have to worry about buying peanut butter. You won't have to worry about buying macaroni. You don't have to worry about buying, mealie meal or maize meal. You don't need to worry about buying tin stuff, all of those things, the basic necessities of a basket. You don't need to worry about that. So maybe that's the amount that you can substitute and send money back home, if needs be. So I never said that's the holistic solution. It's not enough, but it's something, and I really do respect, and I must say with the highest level of respect, I cannot imagine how it feels to have to send your hard-earned money, because it's really hard-earned money. Being in university, you're one of that 1% in the country that is receiving a formal education, and for that, it's really hard-earned, and you've been given the opportunity to receive a bursary from taxpayers, and you use that very same amount to give it to your family. That's a highest level of generosity and selflessness, I must say.
The respect I have on those people.
Exactly. So
because it requires discipline, it requires selflessness, it requires so much from you as a person before it requires your bank account. So
true.
So like, I have so much respect for those people.
And that's why I say the responsibility that we have, at least as leaders, is to try and find a solution to the many problems that we face here on campus. And that's why we try, and I use it very strongly, we try. We're not solving it, and I've said this on multiple occasions. Food insecurity on campus has not been uncovered, trust me. It has not been uncovered. So we try and give out as much as we can to those kinds of cases. And I also think that students should also assist us, and come in and tell us about the sensitive case and things that are happening in their families. And that's what we try and do. But I really think there's really much more we can do than just that. At an institutional level, not NSFAS. NSFAS can keep on increasing it. But even their increases are by at least less than 2 to 3% an increase.
like 50
their
rands.
increase. You know,
Literally
exactly,
50 rands.
literally 50 rand. So it's not really much of an increase.
No.
So what are we doing as the SRC? What are we doing as students? And this is why you see even residence committees having food drives, you know, all of those things. They do assist now. They do assist, but they're not enough.
Okay, speaking on that, let's go back on the Ikamva fund, I believe. How does that work?
Yeah, the Ikamva Lethu fund.
Yes.
So the Ikamva Lethu fund, so we relaunched the Ikamva Lethu fund about 2 weeks ago. The last time the fund was actually in use was in 2018. I remember the SRC.
It's always been there.
Yeah, the Ikamva Lethu fund was started actually in
hidden secret then.
The Ikamva Lethu fund was started in 2016 by President Kony. The president at the time was Kony. It was at the inception of the new vice chancellor at the time, which was Professor Tyrone, and they started a fund in collaboration with, and it was an SRC driven fund, but of course it needs a lot of stakeholders on board, and that's where the Ikamva Lethu fund started in 2016. And what they did with the Ikamva Lethu fund was truly exceptional. So what used to happen is that students would have what's this called, vouchers, pick and pay vouchers. Yeah, they would have pick and pay vouchers, and they would be able to purchase items from Pick and Pay. Among many other things, it used to also clear students.
That's very smart.
During the registration period. So that was its effect at the time. 2018, same thing, raised quite a heavy amount. I think it was around about 3 million that was raised. Now I'm not too sure, I don't have the statistics. And then the fund just went quiet after
Just
that.
disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's the change in SRCs, different styles of leading, different visions, different missions. There's also change in regimes, even in the SRC. You know that it's a very politically contested space. So there might be one organization that assumes power, that's the dominant at the time, and they just don't believe in the Ikamva Lethu fund. And then the other and all of that. So it was inactive until now, where we relaunched the Ikamva Lethu fund. And what we're trying to do with it is mainly 3 things with it. Is to add on to the existing food bank that we have by adding more meat into these food banks, into these food packages rather. We also would like to clear a significant amount of students in the second semester, and also try and alleviate the spiraling debt, specifically to students that we placed in private accommodations. You would know at the beginning of the year, we placed students in private accommodations. And some of these students are unfunded, by the way. So who's going to pay for that? Now, I'm not saying we're going to remove all of their debt and they'll be free.
But
we can at least help lift some weight off, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the second thing that we're trying to do with the fund. And the last thing that we are trying to do with the fund is for academic support. Free course readers. Might not be free textbooks, but I think course readers have sufficient activities to prepare you for an exam. Now, the challenge with that is that we wanted to initially launch it now, but seeing timelines, seeing how the syllabus is structured, so you would have some students that would only take modules for a first semester only, then they change second semester, so it would really be impractical to give them course readers. So let's start with the initiative in second semester. So that's what we're trying to do with the Ikamva Lethu fund. And we've also released a challenge. I'm sure you saw that, and I'm giving you guys the responsibility. Producer, I'm also giving you that responsibility. You guys, the donations.
Okay.
And look, there's been criticism about why you're asking students to donate when we don't have money and all of that. It's all rhetoric, I must say, and it's all things that are trying to disturb us from the end goal. What we're saying is we have a clear goal. We're not saying we want to raise billions. We're saying if each student could contribute as little as just 50 rand once off, if 22,000 students would do that, you would raise 1.1 million rand. And the strategy we're using is, rather than knocking on other people's doors about we need money, because every other university is doing that.
Help each other.
Let's do something historic that has never been done in UWC, in any university in South Africa, and raise internally, and then go out and seek out these donations. It tells a more impactful story that students are funding their own revolution. And therefore, many stakeholders are going to come on board.
That's very beautiful.
You know, firstly, thank you for clearing what Ikamva Lethu Fund is and everything. Because I think the reason why Utando had asked, right, is because if you look at social media, and when you look at specifically things around Ikamva Lethu and what's being said, literally, I thought it was
marketed as
a bursary. Like, you guys are going to act as NSFAS to particular students. So I initially, my question was going to be, who are you funding and how do these students qualify to be funded? Because that's the thing that's out there. But now you guys are acting as some sort of NSFAS, some,
Yeah, because I felt that way too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because
I felt that too. That I feel like it's marketed as a bursary of some sort or financial aid of some sort, whereby
relief.
somebody needs to qualify applications. The marks, the. Basically, you mini NSFAS.
Yeah. No, let me put this disclaimer. The Ikamva Lethu Fund is not a bursary.
Okay.
It's not. It's an SRC fund that intends to do three things: academic support, food security, and registration clearance. That's the purpose of the fund, and even in the founding documents of the Ikamva Lethu Fund, that's what it seeks to do. In no way does it assume that it's a bursary. UWC has those things in place, like your UWC financial aid assistance bursary. There's your NRF. There's your MasterCard Foundation bursaries. Those are bursaries. The Ikamva Lethu Fund is not a bursary, but it just recognizes that there are issues on campus, and there are steps that we ought to take to alleviate those issues. And one of those hindrances, I shall say, is the fact that there's financial constraints. So what do we do in order to mitigate that? Let's create a fund. And in this fund, that's where you get stakeholders that are contributing towards this fund to alleviate all of the issues that we face on campus. The same thing that's also done by the SRC by posing out the challenge to students. It's testing whether are we resilient and are we conscious of the issues that we face here on campus. Therefore, let's rally behind this fund that is the Ikamva Lethu Fund and try and alleviate all of these issues. And I know what you are saying by implying that it's a bursary.
Yeah.
So there's this most stringent part, and I think that's where much of the conversation is and much of the criticism is on social media, that the SRC will be in charge of this fund and dispersing funds to students. They're going to be favoriting, or they're going to be favoring some students to the other. They're going to be biased in their approach and all that. So with the most stringent parts, right, exclusive of academic support, course materials, food bank, but the clearance parts and providing financial relief to students or clearing them, that goes through a process that's very, very strong. It's stringent, and there's financial integrity behind it. So there's a subcommittee called the Financial Aid Subcommittee. So in that Financial Aid Subcommittee, it's not only the SRC that sits there. There's executive officials that sit there, such as your DVC. The head of financial aid sits there. The executive assistants of student development and support. You see, they don't know this, and I think to a certain extent we might also need to take the blame because we don't explain this well enough. So there's a whole panel that sits, that decides how each student is going to be funded or how much is going to be allocated, so that there's a lot of integrity behind how the funds are dispersed. And by the way, once that's done, let me just make this disclaimer. You don't apply for the Ikamva Lethu Fund. No. They already know you.
They already know who needs it.
They already know who is in need of the Ikamva Lethu Fund, because one of the things we've recognized is that students don't really apply. They don't. Even with the UWC Financial Aid Assistance bursary, I might not have the stats, but the last meeting we were in, the numbers were not impressive. And to think there's quite a lot of students that need
But they just don't do it?
But
they just don't. Do you know why? They don't read their emails. That's it.
It's not even.
They don't read their emails. And remember, where you apply is through UWC Communication. You have to go to UWC Communication, look at the UWC Financial Aid bursary and apply there. And unfortunately, the only medium of communication, or one of the most important ones, is
for
through
mass communication.
For mass communication is through your emails. And that's why at times you also get some students that come in and say to us, but I don't have any bursary. And I ask them, did you apply for the UWC Financial Aid bursary? Did you apply for MasterCard Foundation? All of those things. So students are not well aware of these bursaries.
Two things, right? Two things. One, I'd like to differ with what you're saying in terms of students don't look at their emails to see these bursaries. I think students are aware of these bursaries, but then I might be wrong, but it seems like there are requirements that some students feel like they cannot meet. Yeah, well, because I know one of my friends, she was going to apply, but then she just decided, no, let me not apply, because apparently they're taking students who have a good academic record and all of that. And she literally just failed one module, and that was that. And then NSFAS decided to defund her. So literally till date, she's not funded by NSFAS. She's not funded by anything. She's been moving around from place to place because she also doesn't have a place to stay. She's from the Eastern Cape, which is even worse. And second thing is, I wanted to ask, where and how do we donate?
Yes, the challenge. I was about to ask
Yes.
that.
So I just want to quickly just go to
My first point,
that.
yeah.
So I think we should look at the case. We should look at the case, because if you're saying that NSFAS defunded her, it either defunded her because she was above the income stream or because she failed more than twice. So there's been already an opportunity for you to prove yourself, not even once but twice, but you didn't. And then of course you get to the UWC financial aid bursaries or any other bursaries, there's always a criteria to try and attract a pool. Because remember what I said, there's always unlimited needs for limited resources. And as much as we might want to fund everyone, but I don't think it would be possible. So that's where the Ikamva Lethu fund then comes into play. But recognizing some of these students, and by the way, when we disperse these funds, we're not going to clear the whole debt, but we're going to try and clear a certain percentage of your debt.
It.
So that at least you can either be able to graduate, or either you're able to be promoted to the following year or receive your transcript. You know, so those kind of things are important, and that's why the fund exists.
Okay.
And the second thing, and going to your second question, it's quite really simple. It's even on the UWC online pages. It's there on the social media platforms. So you just click on the link. Even go to our social media pages. That's UWC SRC 2024 2025. It's on the bio.
Okay.
Click on the bio. It's a very easy process. They ask you how much you're willing to donate, which faculty you're in. Then you insert your card. Then it's deducted from there, and then that's it. Less than 2 minutes, you're done.
Okay.
And that's how you That's how
Hope
you
you
donate
guys
to the
saw
Ikamva
those
Lethu fund.
instructions. I back. Please do support. I will be doing that as well. Yeah.
Same here.
Producer, I didn't get any indication that you're going to support the fund. Okay, there you go. Thumbs up. Now we're fine. We're fine.
Perfect.
I just know if the producer's doing it, then everyone's got to do
Everyone in
it.
the team
Everyone
got it.
just got to do
Everyone's
it.
doing
Yeah,
it.
Got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would really appreciate that, guys. And like I said so many times, it's not going to solve every bit of problem that we have. And that's the misconception that people have. They think it's going to be a holistic and our problems are going to go away. Even the best of leaders and even the best of solutions won't solve every problem.
I mean, even NSFAS is not solving every problem student.
Exactly my
Every
point.
student's
But
problem.
at least it can try and mitigate that.
Yeah.
And there's financial integrity behind clearing of students. A whole subcommittee sits. It identifies the students. It
Nobody
vets
knew
them.
about that process. Tina, we thought there's a list of Gamazando.
No. And look,
This one day she did this to
and
me.
actually, interestingly, after they vetted,
Yeah.
once the financial aid subcommittee decides, the last two people that sign off on those names so that the funds can be dispersed, it's the DVC of SDS, which is Professor Matete Madiba, and the SRC president, which is myself. Then we sign off, then the funds are dispersed. After that's done, a report is compiled and sent to the donors that donated to the Ikamva Lethu fund on how their funds were utilized.
So meaning that
It's
if
not just names.
Money,
sent,
no,
quiet.
it's a whole process.
But wait, I want to know. I just want to
Yeah.
know if so, as a donor, right? I donate, let's say, 50 rands, as we said. Will I also get the report as well, or are you speaking about external donors?
I'm assuming there'll be some kind of mass thing that you guys update everyone on, that this is what happened this year. and
Yeah,
all of that.
actually, interesting. We are on the 15th of, so usually you would account to students using a platform like the Student Assembly, which is something that's going to be introduced in UWC for the first time ever in history. So it's sort of like a student parliament.
Oh,
So on the 15th, on the 15th and 16th of May, we're having our first student parliament. in the history of UWC.
Beautiful.
It's historic. It has never been done because of the new student governance constitution. And there's only 9 universities that have student parliaments out of 26. UWC is now going to become the 9th. So we're launching that. And that's where the SRC would go and account on behalf of the entire student populace about how the funds were utilized, how much was raised, and how did we intend to use those funds. So rather than receiving a report, rather than each and every student receiving a report, you would receive it in the student assembly. Or, if not there, we would release it via UWC communication about how the funds were utilized, specifically that million. And then external donors would receive their reports. So if a certain foundation donated 5 million, we'd draft a report and state how those funds were used. So there's really a whole process of integrity behind it.
Have the dates been put out there as to this is what's going to happen, where and how, and all of those?
For the student assembly?
Yeah.
So the members that form part of the student assembly have already been informed. So it's a 75-member student assembly, 15 SRC members, 30 public representatives. By PR, we mean organizations that contested elections last year.
Okay.
So they get seats according to the number of votes they received. 4 members from the postgraduate council, 4 members from sports council, 7 of the faculty chairpersons. So it's from every department. They form part of the student assembly. So they've already been informed. So we're about to release a communication either today or tomorrow to the whole student populace, to RSVP. And one interesting thing about our student assembly compared to other student assemblies is that in our student assembly, the public is invited to watch the proceedings. There's also going to be a link that's going to be sent out to entire populace where they can watch.
Stream online.
So yeah,
Beautiful.
that communication is
we've
going to
run
come
out of
out.
time.
Yeah.
Our producer is making communication. we ran
Yeah, I
out
see
of
him moving around. Yeah, I can see.
Look at what he's saying.
You ran out of time. Thank you so much. We had a lot to speak about. We might need to call you again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We learned a lot. The Ikamva Lethu Fund, your wise
Words
and advices. We'd really love to hear more of that. So that's it. Is there anything else you want to say to your people?
No, nothing from my side. Just to thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much for the time. I really truly appreciate such spaces, and what you guys are doing is fantastic. I must say,
thank you so much.
Big appreciation goes out to the producer. Big appreciation goes out to you guys who do it day in, day out. You just do it for a dream. Honestly, there's something that you're realizing. That not a lot of people will see now, but because you're just 10 steps ahead. And you can already see it. That's why you're here. And appreciate it, and appreciate for having me here. Guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Lilo, anything else you want to say to people?
No, man. I think just to thank you as well for honoring the invite. And it's been really quite insightful, in terms of, because we've been having this conversation about money not being enough and how we basically spread it across our expenses and all of this. And in terms of bursaries as well, and thank you for clearing that, Ikamva Lethu is also not a bursary, because we were actually talking about Ikamva Lethu being a bursary and how do students apply. And I think that is one of the reasons why we'd actually ask that you come and explain this to us, just to clear all of these things that are being said online. But yeah, man, other than that, I don't think there's anything else.
Okay. So that's it from us, guys. And thank you for joining us today. Remember to subscribe on the channel, like this video, notification button on so that you can see our next episode. But out for now.